Honest reporting, bit of an oxymoron. That's the temptation, isn't it? What does that mean, honest reporting? I mean, who claims it's honest, who claims it's dishonest? Eye of the beholder, one man's terrorist, another man's freedom fighter, and lots of things like that. Mike Fegelman from Honest Reporting Canada. What is it and who are you?
Thank you for having me on your program, Michael. Good evening. Honest Reporting Canada is a non-profit media monitoring organization. We have a very strict mandate. We try to ensure fair and accurate Canadian media coverage of Israel. Yeah. I'm the executive director.
Right. Now, honest and fair covering of any issue, you know, as a journalist, and you're trained as a journalist too, that can mean so much to so many different people. You know, we speak of Israel. I was over there during the Hezbollah war, and you go back to the hotel at the end of a couple of days, and you turn on the BBC, and then you look at CNN, and you look at Fox, and there were different wars being covered. According to Fox, it was the Israelis could do no wrong at all. According to BBC, the Israelis could do no right at all, and CNN was somewhere in the middle. So what is honest?
So there's a couple of things you point to. One is that I presume you're reporting in Jerusalem.
I was going back to Jerusalem, yeah.
Going back to Jerusalem, which is that the third highest concentration of journalists in the world is in Jerusalem, because
really?
Israel has a very vibrant free press. Yeah. You know, you're not reporting out of Beirut for the most part, or Riyadh.
Well, not for long, anyway.
Not for long, anyways, because Israel embargoes the safety of journalists. It doesn't repress their free expression. Yeah. You point to the 2006 conflict. We had instances. You look at CNN's coverage where Hezbollah was really manufacturing the news. Mm-hmm. They were in areas where there was rubble. They were putting stuffed animals to make it seem as though Israel was bombing a civilian area, whereas it was really just lethally targeting terrorists. Let me ask you about that, because one assumes that journalists aren't completely cretinous. But you'd see pictures of where a rocket or a shell had hit, and there was dust and garbage everywhere, and this pristine teddy bear without a mark on it. And none of them construed from that the teddy bear was put there later? You know, we'd like to think that there was diligence. We'd like to think that people would ask those obvious questions. You know, no rubble, no burn marks. But oftentimes there's complicity between the photographer and the camera person, local stringers, not necessarily people who are hired by BBC or CNN, but people who are outsourced.
Yeah, we should explain what that is, because a local stringer will be someone who, now, they can be on either side, but quite often, in fact, there'll be someone who spoke Hebrew and Arabic, and they will be from the Palestinian community, and they may have certain sympathies. And I suppose one side, I've always found this interesting, that Jewish people who traditionally have been so successful in terms of entertainment, you know, Jews invented Hollywood, that's always what is said. But when it comes to Israel, you're bloody awful at promoting your point of view, and the Arab side is very good at it.
Well, I'll say this.
You know I'm right.
The pro-Israel side is doing much better in terms of getting out a message. It's easier. It's much easier to tell a lie than it is the truth. It takes much longer. That's for one thing. But there's no question that there is a very clear orchestrated effort to malign the state of Israel, to delegitimize and demonize the Jewish state by various protagonists throughout the Arab world and Middle East.
Mm-hmm. What about in this country? People do moan about the Toronto Star, but it's not always so bad. The CBC, I think, is better than it was. It was getting away with a lot of stuff, but now it's been held to account, and it's tried to be more objective.
I think there is an endeavor with a lot of Canadian media outlets to strive for balance, to strive for accuracy. Mm-hmm. You mentioned the Toronto Star. While we have a good relationship, our organization, with the Star, we've noted a lot of problematic reports that they put out. One recently, this past week, they published a commentary that justified the murder of Israeli athletes in the Munich '72 games.
Really?
So basically, they published a commentary by somebody saying, you know what, the Israelis have killed Palestinians, so you know, what the Palestinian terrorist group Black September did was understandable. And to us, that's a pretty inflammatory thing to say. Yeah. You know, keep it with a certain mindset. Imagine the Toronto Star publishing a commentary, sort of understanding how post-September 11th, that, you know, we understand where Osama bin Laden was coming from.
Well, actually, I've read quite a few columns like that. It will be, we condemn this, but. You waited about 4 or 5 words for but, and then a complete critique and condemnation of the American foreign policy. Other newspapers, I mean, again, those on the other side from you would say, well, the National Post and the Sun is very pro-Israel, and Sun News were very pro-Israel, so it balances itself out.
It's an interesting point. We try to look at beyond who is doing the reporting and look at the product of journalism that is being put forward. Mm-hmm. I think one of the primary offenders in terms of in Canada is the CBC and its French counterpart, Radio Canada. And this isn't just me saying it, but this is our complaints going to their staff, their editors, and their ombudsman, agreeing with what our concerns about their coverage. It's not just a one-offer, but we have noted systemic bias.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that there are people at these news organizations who have an axe to grind with Israel, but I think it's largely the byproduct of a lot of very serious impediments to doing good coverage of the Middle East.
Yeah, I also think, the CBC, for example, you're not always dealing with the deepest people. I'm not trying to be rude here, but they're pretty ordinary. They haven't been enormously impressed. Some of them are okay. So they're influenced, but also it's thought to be sexier and more edgy if you're pro-Arab because mum and dad were supportive of Israel. It's rather like bashing Christianity. You know, that was mum and dad. Now, look at me, I'm a young person, I'm really tough. And so you take what you think is a contrarian point of view, when in fact it has hundreds of billions of dollars behind its propaganda machine.
Right, and I think it's that. I think there is a willingness to accept inflammatory allegations without rebuttal, which I think has to happen from hosts, from reporters, to provide equitable balance and context to the situation and the narrative.
I have to ask you, is it not true then that all of international media is in the control of wealthy Jews?
If it was, we'd have better coverage of Israel, okay? I can put that seal before that.
It's a great pleasure. By the way, is there a website if people want to go and find out what you're saying? They may not have to, they don't have to believe it. They can think you're a bunch of liars, but if they want to go and visit you, where do they go?
Absolutely. No obligation to pay anything. It's entirely free. www.honestreporting.ca. You can sign up to receive our newsletters there.
HonestReporting.ca. Thanks for your time.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.